start the meeting with a presentation from Ms. John. So we're looking at about 10 or 15 minutes for that presentation. And then we will open up the public hearing for the vertical bridge proposal. So that you can see them. Thank you.
Good evening, council members. I'm Matt Tenaya John, 935 Main Street, Suite C4, Safety Harbor, Florida 34695. And so I'm coming back before you today. Last week I was before you for the first reading, and we just had a conversation. You did not hold your first reading for a 250-foot tall lattice-style communication tower support facility at the end of Traditions Drive, parcels 093010C, D, and E. The tower beyond parcel C with access across D and E. I'm going to move a little bit quickly through this after I get past project posture because there's a lot of information that is already in the packet, and then I'm going to focus on one of the things that you asked me to come back to you with, which was comparative heights for T-Mobile, so that way you can see what coverage would be obtained at different heights if this tower were to be lowered. So, project posture, I would describe it as two hardworking people separated by a common language. We had Don Jarvis, the site acquisition agent for Vertical Bridge. He was researching a site in Baldwin. He was working with Ms. Woodmaster, who wears many hats. And so, from the best I can tell, he was asking about how you handle zoning in general for towers in the city, and I believe Ms. Woodmaster was thinking that he was asking about how towers are handled on city property. Regardless, there was some confusion that led to the thought process that building permit review would be necessary for the tower that I'm bringing before you today. Through that process, they were informed that a special use permit would be required. Vertical Bridge went back, put that together, and also went through additional FAA review of an extended study. So that brings us back to where we are today. Base project information. This should look somewhat familiar. This is your property tax assessor's map, and I'm just showing Baldwin with an orange arrow applied to the parcel that the tower is located on. You can see as you go to the north, Highway 441 curves through to the northwest. You have the Habersham County Airport. And these are just closer views. Of note, to your north, you have the Norfolk Southern Railway Corridor, which we discussed last week. This is your zoning map, and just to help give a little lay of the land, the gray area that goes through is the 441 Scenic Overlay Corridor. It has a 35-foot height limit, and that led to initial discussions, the first parcel that was discussed between Vertical Bridge and the city to unfortunately not succeed. And then of course we have R1 and R2 zoning outside the downtown overlay. And we are outside the downtown overlay as well. As you see, there aren't a lot of options on this side of town from a zoning perspective. Tower design, what's currently proposed before you is a lattice-style communication tower. And this is a lattice. It has ironworks, no guy wires, external antennas. Other designs that came up in conversation, I know a monopine was mentioned last week. So this is what tree-type camouflaging looks like. And basically, it's a tree it's a structure that's engineered to have a single support pole, and then you have a foliated canopy of branches that are attached to it. It is all engineered for the wind zone and for the latest version of the Georgia IBC. This is a shrouded monopole. You can see one out west, so they've used dressing steel and they've used tan for the color there. Other times you find them as a light gray or a light blue painted, but basically they are an evolution of your unipole flagpole designs. Once upon a time, we had cell towers that looked like unipoles, or looked like flagpoles, and you could fly either a US flag or a state of Georgia flag on it. Unfortunately, those have become rather obsolete in that modern antennas require airflow through them. So you don't have the space to align your antennas, and you don't have the airflow. It's akin to putting your Wi-Fi router in your attic. You just cook it. This, however, gives the concealment, but the top and bottom, because it's wider, the top and bottom is open, and that allows air to pass through. And then this is an example of what a shrouded monopole looks like. These towers max out around 200, 225 feet structurally. Anyways, coming back to the tower as it's currently proposed to you, and I will be back before you on the 26th. This is the lattice. It is designed to co-locate multiple wireless carriers. T-Mobile will be located at the top. They're the reason that we are here. They've asked for the tower. There are 2 additional spaces for other national carriers that they could co-locate upon, and further to make those co-locations available at market rates. And then on the right-hand side, this is sheet C2 of the plans that you have in your packet. You can see that the equipment area at the base of the lattice is designed to have the base equipment, which is essentially traffic light sized cabinets with computers in them around there, and you can actually co-locate up to 3. Co-location is important because otherwise you end up with tower clustering. This is an example of tower clustering. And you can see that there's multiple towers there. Some of those are AM/FM towers, but at least 3 of them are cell towers that just aren't sharing. So that's why co-location is preferred in your code. It's also, that's also an objective that this tower achieves, and that it's shareable. I'd also like to bring to your attention that the tower has gone through an FAA determination of no hazard to air navigation. It's actually gone through an extended study. That's where the FAA takes a closer look at it, because Habersham County Airport is located to the northwest. So it's gone through that and has been determined. Yes?
I was just gonna ask, exactly what is it do they look at as far as, would you say they had an extended look at the, any kind of hazard to the airport? What precisely do they look for?
So they're performing an airspace study to see if it's a physical obstruction to the air traffic around there. They're also looking to make sure that the frequencies that would be broadcasted from it don't interfere with the systems at the airport, because you have different, you obviously have the radios, but you also have things like an instrument landing system that you might have, and things like that. I don't have an FAA airspace consultant with me today, but I do have one on the 26th. I do have Greg Spence with me. He's a site acquisition agent who has been involved in the construction of many sites across the U.S. If you want him to get a little bit more into the details, he can answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
This is just the survey that is in your packet. It shows that the equipment area for the tower, and the tower will be within that square on the Brasinos property, and then the access would be off of Traditions Drive. These 3 parcels have been parceled since 1996, and they've just kind of laid in fallow at the end of a paper road. This is just another view. This is sheet C1, and this is just important because it shows the lot setbacks for R1 zoning. I'm not requesting any variances from the R1 zoning requirements. I am requesting the special use to allow the tower in R1 zoning and the variance for the height. This is the RF package that was submitted, and I'm going to be moving into new slides soon. But when you look at this map, up is north. Of course, you can see the Habersham County Airport to my northwest, a blue dot, and unfortunately I'm pointing with my finger, which my mentor told me never to do. No one wants to see your fingers. Anyways, the blue dot is the proposed tower. There were some other smaller towers in the area that T-Mobile looked at and addressed in the first iteration of the RF package. And then there's a black dot to the southwest, down near Highway 441, and a black dot to the north, or to the southeast, my apologies, and a black dot to the northwest up by Georgia 13. Those are the handoff towers. So those are the towers that T-Mobile is co-located on. They're currently trying to serve Baldwin. Just for context, the northern handoff is a 250-foot tall lattice, and the southern handoff is a 265-foot tall lattice. So the design that I'm proposing is not anything that doesn't already exist in the view sheds around the city. So I'm now showing you the proposed coverage that would be provided by the tower. This is 4G coverage. If we were to show 5G bands, the new generation that we're moving into as part of the U.S.'s wireless connectivity infrastructure push, essentially, you would see less coverage because 5G does not propagate as far as 4G. Anyways, green is reliable in building coverage, and yellow is coverage that is unreliable in building but would be reliable in a vehicle. And then once you get out beyond that, you just have signal that is unreliable no matter where you are. So as you can see with this, the entire core of Baldwin is covered. It reaches down towards Kitchens and Hartwood to the southwest, down past the silos and the Norfolk Southern Yard, and to the northeast to the edges of Cornelia. If you were to shorten the tower to be 220 feet tall, so the antennas would be at 210 feet, so a 30-foot drop in height, you would get some losses at Cornelia, you'd get some losses out by Hartwood. The loss that is towards the center is along a creek that's currently not developed, but where it would affect your populated areas would be to the northeast and the southwest. And then as we come down to 190 feet, so if this was a 199-foot tall tower, just under the normal threshold for lighting, that you see a little bit more incremental loss. But again, you're still covering the core of Baldwin. And then if we were to come down to 170 feet, so to the top of tower, you'd be looking at 175. You'd be looking at 180 to top of lightning rod. It would bring you to, it would show the coverage that you see here. At that point, you're not providing reliable in-building coverage in Cornelia. You're struggling to provide reliable in-building coverage down off of Hartwood and Apple Pie, but you are still covering the core of Baldwin.
You're at 10 minutes.
So anyways, that is what I wanted to show you. And I would respectfully of course, we will be continuing our discussions. I have a call scheduled with Mr. Samuels and Ms. Woodmaster to talk tower design. We've been looking into the water tank. There is, unfortunately, the terrain drops off very steeply, so it's not looking great. And we will be back before you on the 26th. I would ask that you approve the first reading as it is a procedural step. It is not an approval of the tower at this time. Thank you very much. I reserve time for rebuttal. I and Mr. Smith are available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
So what if the technology improves in the future and the cell phone tower is no longer required? Will you come and remove it?
Yes. So that's required under the lease. I'll double check to see if I'll double check the abandonment provision of your code. Most tower codes have a code enforcement aspect, and sometimes some cities ask for a tower removal bond. So let's say that Vertical Bridge it's a nationwide company, but let's say it were to completely disappear from the face of the earth, Baldwin would have the money necessary to have it removed.
Okay.
So, and that's an option as well for you.
Any other questions for Ms. John?
No, but I don't believe we actually have a communications tower ordinance per se. So, repeat what you were saying about the, thank you.
Absolutely. So,
It says it's required in most ordinances. What was that again?
it's called an abandonment provision.
I gotcha.
So, in most of those ordinances, let's say the tower is not used for 6 months, the city or the county can basically start a code enforcement complaint against the structure and actually have it ordered by the code enforcement hearing officer or board removed.
Okay.
Some counties and towns actually take it a step further to require the tower company to also provide a bond, so that way,
Yeah. There's money there, yes.
yes.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Johns had about 13 minutes to present. We need to make sure that we give ample time to opposing side as well. I'm going to open the public hearing, which should be a 20-minute public hearing. Could we have the folks who are in favor of the tower to come forward? Please give your name and your address and address code.
Here's a sign-in sheet.
Sign in sheet. That was helpful. Thank you. I don't know if these people are for or against, so. Is there anybody here in support of, who would like to speak in support of the tower? Seeing nobody come forward. Mr. Tope, you had asked to be on the agenda this evening, so you'll have 5 minutes. For the people who just came in tonight and signed in, they'll have 3 minutes to speak, so if you wanna go first.
Yes, ma'am.
If you can just give your name and your address.
Yes, it's Mike Tope. Address is 216 Pinedale Street, Baldwin, Georgia 30511. So good evening. Thank you for letting us speak today. As I said, my name is Mike Tope. I live at that address with my wife and 2 children. We are in opposement of the special request. We just became aware of this yesterday, right? And that's partially our fault as citizens, but you know, just seeing the small sign, right? That's what caught my eye and we looked at it. So this morning, I canvassed the neighborhood, right? And talked to our neighbors, talked to other community members. I actually even talked to some people throughout the community at the school pickup line. One person was aware of this, right? That out of everybody I talked to, and that was probably close to 100 people. The other thing is, you know, a couple years ago we had another special use request for that land, right? And it was for a pre-manufactured home on one of those lots that would cover the whole property, right, of the 5 or 6 lots it is. For that one, you guys requested them to go house to house, talk to everybody, get signatures that they were informed, and then asked to either come in opposition or favor, right? So I'm a little concerned that something of this magnitude didn't get that same request, quite honestly, right? But, you know, we're here, so I'd love to have an opportunity to talk about it. Let's see. So we are adjacent to this property. We live right next to it. The cell tower that is proposed is roughly 298 feet from our house. Not property, house. So this will have direct impact on, you know, me and my family especially. Major concern is the health risks, right, with living so close to the tower itself. Let's see. Studies indicate that a 500-meter, 1,640-foot buffer from a cell tower is recommended due to the reported health effects and limiting liabilities to cities, even through people having reported health symptoms at a distance of a mile or more away. Again, this is 91 meters, 298 feet from our home. This is well below the recommendation and is a major concern for our family. The effects of RF radiation documented in scientific research include increased cancer risk, sleep issues, cellular stress, headaches, changes to the reproductive system, genetic damage, memory deficits, and impacts to the nervous system. This cell tower is approved. Really, there's no doubt that we would have to sell our house and we would have to move. And that would be devastating for us. You know, my children have been at Baldwin since they're in kindergarten, right? Stu and Q's where we go on the weekends to get breakfast. We go to Tim's Auto, which is now Jones Auto, to get our car fixed, right? We bought tires from Jared's. We had parties at the park. So this is our home. This is where we want to be. So it just is really concerning to us. I'd also like to point out that the proposed cell tower will be located, approximately 984 feet from the elementary school. This is well inside the 500-meter buffer, recommended buffer as well. School has roughly 372 students, 75 teachers. That's 7.5 8-hour days for 180, 190 days a year. Practically living there as well, right? And then you go into the property depreciation.
You're right, Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Tote, one of the things I have been impressed with though is now Haversham's coverage. of
Yeah,
the
unfortunately,
cell tower.
I'm not a huge social media person, so if I do, it's going to be watching videos on fixing something or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, one of the interesting conversations that I had with Mr. Neese last week, I called them anticipatory articles. What did you call them, Jerry? Advancers. I found it interesting that the media was reporting on things before it happened, right? So these
Yeah.
kind of advancers or anticipatory articles, and they've been covering the tower and other things that are coming up. So I appreciate the fact that the sign was visible, not visible.
Yeah.
And I know that we had it right up there at Traditions. And it's been up for how long? Other than the few minutes that it was down.
Yeah, it is, and there's, if I can make the request going forward, if we maybe couldn't put it on an attached structure, so kind of it being on those power lines, it being on the power pole, it would be better if it was kind of a standalone structure, a standalone system, and maybe not even that dark blue. Like if you look at, I know Forsyth, I know
Yeah. Orange.
Cumming, I know all of them, it's either a yellow, an orange, a red, a
Yeah, like
white
that.
with orange or red lettering. So that one just tends to blend a little bit with some of the other signs that
Yeah.
are typically around. So once you see it, you understand what it is and you can actually get a good glimpse of it. But it's also kind of, if you're just driving by, it gets lost a little
And
bit.
you can't see it as you drive by.
No, you have to stop. You have to stop and pull over.
But can we take that as a recommendation, Ms. Woodmaster, that we can look into another color for those signs? So
Yeah.
that will come out of this meeting, that
Okay.
we'll look at something else, so.
At some point, I would like to, I didn't get to the end of the thing, which is kind of a shame. There are actually public records cited from T-Mobile themselves.
Could you give that to Ms. Woodmaster and then she
We'll get a
can
copy.
share?
Yeah, I mean, I can,
copies
yeah,
with us?
I can get with you and either email it or something like that. But yeah, because there are actual T-Mobile public records.
Okay.
One from their 2023 commissioning or exchange commission filing.
Just to give that to her and then she
Okay.
can share that with us, just in the interest of time, I'd like to keep
Yeah,
moving. So
understood.
Thank you.
So we can do
Thank
that.
you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Taylor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Ralph Taylor with Hunt & Taylor Law Group. We're located at 1001 Riverside Drive, Suite A, in Gainesville, Georgia. Our firm represents Habersham County, and I am here to voice the county's concerns and objections to this variance application before you. On behalf of not only the commission, but also the Airport Commission, that has done a great job over the last 5 or 6 years in developing the Habersham County Airport. You may not be aware, but I'm sure you are. Over the past 5 years, we've built a new airport terminal. We've expanded the runways. We have further hangar construction on the way. The airport has just done a tremendous thing for this county and will continue to do so. But we believe this tower is going to present a clear and present danger to the operations of the airport. Mayor, I have a letter that I'd like to submit. I've got copies for the council, but there's a particular document I'd like for you to see. I think a picture speaks 1,000 words, and for my 3 minutes, if I may.
Come forward.
out to you, I'd like for you to turn to the very last page, which is an airspace diagram and plat prepared by the engineer that consults with the airport at Habersham. And if you'll see, on the very last page, this is a document that shows you the airport and the proposed tower. The proposed tower is highlighted in yellow for you. You'll see that it's located within a mile, I think 0.86 miles, nautical miles of the airport. Importantly, the height of this tower from sea level is 1,752 feet. If you'll see, the runway is at 1,447 feet. That means there's a 300-foot obstruction right in the middle of the flight path that pilots use when they are taking off and when they're landing from the airport. Remember, we have recreational pilots, we have professional pilots, we have single prop planes, twin prop planes, jets that all use this airport. We have instruction that takes
Right?
place.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Flight school as well?
Yes,
Yeah.
instruction that takes place. And so I think it's, the picture speaks our message in terms of the great concern this will have to the operations at our airport. I'd also like to point out a couple of things, because I know there's some other folks here that are pilots who will be able to speak more to the potential hazards of this tower. But your ordinance contains an airport overlay district. And your overlay district has some very good language that I want to call to the council's attention. With regard to a variance, the most important concern is public safety, balanced with the potential benefit or detriment to the property owner. Your ordinance also speaks to the concern for pilots with regard to being able to distinguish between airport lights and others, and glare in the eyes of the pilots that impair visibility in the vicinity of the airport. That's in section 709.4 of your own ordinance. It says those are important factors. Another point I would make is that the procedure in your ordinance calls for the airport to have received a notice of this application and to elicit comments about the activity that would occur at the airport with regard to how this tower would affect it. And so for those reasons, we would ask the council to consider denying this application. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Mr. You said the FAA didn't have a concern with the tower for hazards.
Correct. Matt John, and it received an FAA determination of no hazard to air navigation.
Okay, and you use the word obstruction.
Right.
Is there a difference?
Right.
There is a difference, Mayor, and if I may comment to that point. If you look at the application that the applicant has made, look at the date of that determination by the FAA. That determination was made in September of 2023, 2 months before this application was even submitted to the city. The airport was never received notice of this study being conducted by the FAA. The FAA report actually admits these are obstructions that don't meet the FAA standards. Wouldn't you think that the Habersham County Airport should have been consulted with regard to what impact this is going to have on the operations of the airport? Not only by the FAA, but also by the applicant in this petition.
Matt John, so the FAA determination of no hazard process, a huge aspect of that is analyzing obstructions relative to the airport. The extended study was because of proximity to the airport. If you'd like the intimate details of that review, I can have, at the 26th, I can have an airspace study consultant discuss that process. If it is your position that an airport zoning variance is now needed, I would respectfully submit that that has to go through review. So I don't think that's, from a due process perspective, before your dais as grounds for denial. What we have provided, though, is that the FAA didn't just look at this, but looked at it closely, both electronically and for physical proximity. Are there any, Mr. Spence, do you have anything did I miss anything? I apologize, I'm just making sure because Mr. Spence has more experience with them. Is there anything, otherwise we're going to let them move forwards? Anything about the review? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to not take up your complete evening.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Andrea Harper.
I'm Andrea Harper. I live at 501 Willingham, right down the street. I was also honored enough to be part of your comp plan. This is actually against your comp plan. It says that you will respect and maintain your neighborhood residential area. So not only are you tempting fate with your comp plan, you're also going against your actual overlay district ordinance.
We're not going against, we haven't made.
No,
a
I know,
decision
but
yet,
this
so-
would go against if you vote for it. So I am asking you and your new council people, read your comp plan. This is your Bible. The state requires you to have it. You have to review it every 3 or 5 years. Be very careful in what you make, your decisions that you make. So I'm asking that you vote against the tower at any height and against the variance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, D. Higgins.
Tangled up.
Good evening, and thank you for your time. My name is Dee Higgins. I live at 300 Grandview Circle in Cornelia. I come to you tonight as the chair or vice chairman of the Habersham County Airport Commission. As Mr. Taylor has said, we are strongly against the tower. It may not be a hazard per se for navigation, but as a pilot also, if you're flying and you lose an engine and you have to turn quick to get back to the runway, you don't want a 250-foot obstacle in your way. And it is in close proximity to the runway, as has been stated. And just wanted to get on the record that the Habersham County Airport Commission is against the tower being placed there. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's something that needs to be mentioned, is we seem to be stuck in the 30s before helicopters were invented. Helicopters don't need to go along with the runway direction. And we have EMS helicopters coming in and out of the airport.
Every day.
And military.
And military. So, you know, we're not looking at obstructions just in line of sight or along the runways. Helicopters can come from the side as well.
Yes, and we do have the, the National Forest Service now hosts a firefighting unit at the airport 6 months out of the year. So
Yeah.
that's another consideration with Air Methods being the EMS helicopter on base as well. So, they go up and they go directional. They don't, just like you said, they don't fly the runway headings. Good point. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Doug McDonald.
Mayor and council, this is my second appearance here. Thank you for allowing me to speak again. My address is Post Office Box 396, Cornelia, Georgia 30531. I pay taxes in Baldwin. I own real estate in Baldwin. In fact, just a rock's throw from where they proposed this tower to go. Well, and of course, I'm concerned about the tenants in the rental dwelling that I have and their safety. I want to tell you that this letter from the FAA that says no hazard is a misnomer. It's misnamed. It's not true. Well, you're going to take on the FAA? I can. Know how. They need to be. The FAA letter cannot tell you what to do. They can't make you give a permit. They can't stop you in any way. They can't change anything you do. They do not govern the city of Baldwin. And I hope opposing counsel or my counterpart will tell you that. That is the absolute perfect situation where no airplane loses an engine, where the weather is perfect and every rule in the book is followed. There's no room for human error in their reports and the way they look at things. They do not live in the real world. I do. I've been flying since 1975 almost. I've been a 50-year pilot. All of my career and my piloting has been out at Habersham County Airport. I'm an IFR, VFR, single engine, multi-engine, land, commercial pilot. I just don't fly the big boys, but capable otherwise. I have taken off and landed out there thousands of times. I've seen airplanes lose engines. I've seen airplanes have difficulty. We do have a lot of training that goes on out there, and it is growing, folks, wonderfully so. But I am an IFR pilot that can fly in clouds where you can't see the ground within 200 feet above the ground. And you don't need to be out there in an airplane when there's a tower that you could easily strike. Now the pilot's up there, he's got to land. But the sad part about it is there are people on the ground. And those people on the ground can lose their life when an airplane malfunctions or if the pilot malfunctions. So listen, don't fall for this business about this letter saying there's no hazard. The real word, and I know you will concentrate on it, is unsafe. Is it unsafe? The answer is yes. I'm here with thousands of hours in flying to tell you it is unsafe from my experience and my knowledge. Rules are necessary for an organized civilization. If you don't have rules, you don't have organization. People can't exist without rules. And T-Mobile is coming asking you to change your rules. Rules that you have worked hard at adopting over years, as Ms. Harper has indicated. So when people come want you to break the rules, I know that you will look skeptically at it, very carefully at it, and wonder why they want you to break the rules. Question: will T-Mobile be paying the city of Baldwin any money?
I don't think so.
No.
I know.
No. There's no monetary gain for the city of Baldwin to give these people the right to use that tower. Now, the people that own the land where the tower's going, they have a wonderful lease with lots of money coming to them. I noticed tonight for the first time, she didn't make mention of this last time, and that is that T-Mobile wants to move from other towers in this community, their current locations. 3 of them, I think she said.
No.
You're at time, Mr. McDonald.
Okay, I'll say my remarks for the other time, but please don't fall for this no hazard business. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No 1-minute response?
I've been called many things. I will not be called a liar. I did not say that those towers are going away. This is needed in addition to those towers. If Mr. McDonald thinks that the FAA doesn't exist, I advise him to try to buzz Atlanta Hartfield Jackson Airport and see if the FAA isn't there to meet him on the ground.
Not any cell towers down there
Is
either on
this-
Hartsfield. Promise you that.
Rebuttal or not? The airport is regulated by the FAA. It has an FAA identifier. Now if you're going to pick and choose when the FAA does and doesn't exist for you, and if there's concerns about obstructions, why aren't there lights? Why is the airport not here talking to you about lights in the silos along the railroad tracks? If you want more details, I will bring in the FAA airspace consultant. Also, the FAA can't tell you to approve it, but they can definitely tell me not to build it. And getting the FAA determination of no hazard to air navigation gets past that step. If they found it to be a hazard, again, an obstruction, unsafe. That's the point of a hazard, something that is unsafe. And then finally, as far as the variance, if I was here asking for a Chick-fil-A, I think we'd be having a very different discussion. But I'm here asking for a piece of infrastructure that implements a nationwide approach to wireless connections. This is our infrastructure project of this generation.
Thank you.
I will.
I'll address the comment about the towers not having, or the towers being in place, the silos being in place. I can't speak for what the previous council approved or didn't approve, or what happened when those silos went up. That was before my time here. We can only correctly vote and correctly approve things as the council sits here today. We can only make decisions based on our knowledge and our perspectives. So, silos, I don't like them, but they're there, and nothing, I can't do anything.
Well, they're outside of our city limits.
Yeah, and it's outside of city limits in a good way. As far as, the comment about the FAA existing or not existing, we know what still in track record they have. And that's all I'll say about that. But we have to keep in mind that this is more than just technology. I'm in the IT field. I understand, I work with cell signal every day. And my biggest gripe in life is having a $100,000 station not operational because it doesn't have enough cell signal. So I understand the difficulties. What I'm seeing though is we've got these two towers on either side of Baldwin, and they're outside of city limits, and now we want to plant this giant tower in the middle of Baldwin. I mean, I'm no geography expert, but it seems to me that there's plenty of other options available. With modern technology, repeaters, everything, I'm sure there's something else that can be done other than slapping that tower right in the middle of Baldwin.
On res R1. Okay, yeah.
All right, we're still in the middle of the public hearing. Would anybody else like to come forward to speak for or against the tower? Seeing no one else, having exhausted our 20 minutes, I'm going to close the public hearing. Thank you to all who spoke. Okay, there being no old business, we have one item of new business. Statewide mutual aid agreement for Banks and Habersham counties. Ms. Woodmaster, can you lead us through that, please?
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so on page 91 of your packets is the statewide mutual aid and assistance agreement. These are agreements that we sign every 4 years.
Can you be a little louder, because
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Sure. This is an agreement that we sign every 4 years with respective counties, Banks and Habersham County. This allows us to engage in utilizing other people's resources and us utilizing our resources for them in the event that there is a disaster or declared emergency. If somebody is to need assistance, this is just building the framework that allows us to go into another jurisdiction with our equipment and vice versa. So for example, us going into the city of Demarest in the middle of, a weather event and assisting them in repairing their line, this allows us to do that. This is what is allowing us to go in and out. I will say that there is some language in the agreement that does say that you're not required to provide the service if it will hurt you. So if you are in the middle of the crisis and the neighboring city next to you is also in a crisis, you're not mandated by this agreement to go to that neighboring community to help them if you need your resources. So this isn't you have to give it away because you've signed this agreement. This just allows us to help. There is an agreement, and it's slipping my mind. We signed it in either 19 or 20, similar to this. I will get that name for you on Monday night. But it allows us, Georgia Warren, that's what it is. The Georgia Warren agreement that allows us that same ability to go to other counties, and we can bill them for those resources once they've been utilized and the emergency is over. Do you guys remember that agreement? No, I'll send it to you.
Can you say the name of it? Georgia what?
It's Georgia Warren, WARN.
Okay.
I think it's really GA Warren, but and it's an acronym. But I will send that over to you so that you have it and you can review it. But this complements it. It really is just a framework that allows us to assist other agencies. The very last page of your packet, page 99, is an FAQ, which is common questions of why does this agreement exist? Why do we have it? Why do we need it? How will it hurt us? So if you would like to review that. Is there any questions that you have regarding this?
And this is something that all municipalities are doing with their counties right now?
That's correct. Yeah, this is just the time that they re-sign them.
Okay, and because we lie in 2 counties, do we have to do 2 versions of this, or how do? what
We
does that
do
look like?
it because the emergency management agencies over both Habersham and Banks County are different. So in the event that there's an emergency in Banks County, it allows us to help them. And we're under the direction of the EMA director there. If it's something that happens in Habersham County, that's something that happen. If there's a crisis in both, I think we would just defer to whoever took command first.
So we just sign this once? Okay.
Yeah, there's 3 responsible parties. This agreement, I forgot to mention that, I apologize, but this agreement authorizes certain individuals in our government to authorize it, to say, hey, City of Cornelia, we're having issues, or vice versa. Those 3 people being the mayor pro tem, and the city administrator.
And legal counsel's had a chance to look at this?
Yes.
No concerns? And the recommendation is to bring it to, for Monday night if there are no questions? Any questions, council?
No question.
No. Mr. Keith, any questions? No. We're okay bringing it to Monday night?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. We'll do that.
I will send you the Georgia Warren agreement so that you have that.
Okay, that concludes the formal part of the meeting announcements. The deadline for city property tax has been extended to February 16th. Payments can be made at City Hall or online at www.baldwinpayments.com. City offices will be closed on Monday, February 19th in observance of President's Day. Any announcements?
I have one more. Somehow we had it taken off, but we'll add it back on there. If you haven't signed up for a homestead exemption, we are still accepting those applications until April 1st for the 2024 tax year. So it won't apply to this year's taxes, but it will apply to next year's. You're welcome to come by City Hall and talk to our city clerk.
Okay, homestead exemptions in both Habersham and Banks County.
That's correct. I will say that the county, like if you don't have an exemption with the county, you do have to apply at the county. Your application at the city is only for city taxes. So if you don't know that if you have an exemption or not, just call us and we can let you know.
Yeah, definitely do that. It helps on your property taxes, yes.
You realize that we're talking about taxes on April 1st, right?
Okay. Are there any announcements from council? None, thank you. I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from Councilman Venter. I need a second. I have a second from Mr. Keith. All those in favor? We're adjourned.
All right, see you, get better.
Bye, Eric.